Hello, YouTube! Guys, I've been checking out Midnight Alpha, the internal build, and I've been able to get my hands on Feral Druid and see all of the changes that are planned to come in Midnight. Obviously, everything is subject to change, and everything in this video could potentially change. But one massive one, the thumbnail, Blood Talons is gone. And it really is. It's just gone. They are drastically reducing snapshotting on Feral and simplifying things, I think, across the board, really, in the game. So in this video, I want to talk to you guys about what's changing for Feral, why it's changing, because I actually have some developer notes, as well as answers to my questions from the developers, specifically about Feral Druid and like this sort of simplification and complexity and snapshotting and stuff. So I'll give you that. And then I want to talk about Feral in the wider game, because we're not the only spec that exists, so when things change for us, they change for other specs, and it's important to consider that and actually zoom out, look at things on a macro level, and go, right, how are we fitting into the wider scope of the game? So that's the plan for this. Now, I will note as well, I'm also live on Twitch right now, streaming the alpha, so come by, ask your questions. I'm going to be doing a bunch of testing on the alpha for Feral, for a bunch of other specs, and just getting my hands on everything. So come check it out, Twitch, Psybearslat, also on YouTube, also on Kick. Amazing. Right, let's jump into this then. So this is how Feral's currently looking. This is the talent tree here. You can see our new Apex talents down here on the left. We have our hero talents, and then, yeah, the spec tree has changed a bit, and so has the class tree a bit. There have been a couple little updates there as well. So, hero talents don't look like they've really changed at all. We are expecting a new column for both, and we'll see what we're going to get in that area. So, hero talents, TBD. Apex talents. Let's talk a little bit about what the Apex talents are. So, Unseen Predator. We've got to get Chris Hansen on this, on the case. When you Ferocious Bite, you have a 15% chance per combo point spent, so 15 times 5, 75? Math. Chance per combo, yeah, to flicker to an enemy within 30 yards and deliver an unseen attack. Maybe John Cena. Maybe we'll go John Cena. Less nonce, I think. Unseen Slash. Slash the target, dealing 500 physical damage and an additional 1400 bleed damage over 6 seconds. If this effect is reapplied, any remaining damage is added to the new bleed. Or it will do Unseen Swipe. Swipe nearby targets, dealing 900 physical damage, damage reduced beyond 5 targets. So these are like the attacks that can occur, I think is how it works, is it will do one or the other. So that's the base. You then have Unseen Predator upgrade 2. So Unseen attacks increases your damage done by 15% for 5 seconds. Additional applications extend this effect. Now, I would imagine that this is not snapshotted. I would imagine this is dynamic. Tiger's Fury causes you to perform an unseen attack after your next 2 combo point generating attacks. Rip and unseen attack damage increased by 30%. Again, I'm going to assume that's dynamic. Maybe it isn't. But I would imagine it is, as they're removing some of these snapshotting components like blood talents and stuff. So that's our Apex talent. I think fairly good. I guess it's pretty, it's kind of like passive in some ways. But yeah, I don't know. I'll play around with that. I don't really have a mega opinion on it just yet. I've looked at a bunch of other Apex talents, and some of them seem kind of on par. Like, there's nothing that I've seen yet that's like, oh my god, this is monumentally, insanely cool. So this probably plays on par with some other specs and what they're getting. Okay. Top of the tree hasn't changed. Middle section of the tree has. We now have Sudden Ambush on the left-hand side of the tree here. No Lunar inspiration isn't there, but Sudden Ambush, well, Sudden Ambush has always been here, but it's changed. So you now have a chance to make your next Rake, Shred, or Swipe critically strike, rather than, like, snap that effect. So when it says about critically striking on Rake, I would imagine it's the initial component of Rake, not the bleed. Like, not that every bleed tick is going to crit. that would be funky. You then have Moment of Clarity here, and then you have Savage Fury here. So you've kind of got some energy talents here, and then this technically could be considered an energy talent if you're looking at combo point generation, but or an energy efficiency, combo point efficiency talent. I guess that's what we'll class these three as here. You then have Berserk, which then leads down into Wild Slashes, a talent that we already had, but has now been moved over from the right-hand side of the tree here into the middle. And you have Blood Spattered, which is new. Ferocious Bite's damage to its primary target increased by 2% for each enemy affected by your rip up to 10. So just in AoE, you're going to do more bite damage. Cool. We still have Rampant Frosty, which is going to be cleaving everything with bite. Now, I don't know if Blood Spattered is only going to affect the initial target or every target that you bite from Rampant Frosty. So that's something for the Theory Crafters to confirm and whatnot. We then have Mastery increased by 2% here. Panther's Guile. Infected Wound is there. We don't have Taste for Blood, do we? No, it's there. Sorry, Taste for Blood has been moved over there. We have a 1 minute reduction on our Berserk here, so you can reduce it down to 2 minutes instead of 3. And then you have, down here, Incarnation, Avatar of Ashamain. And it reduces the cooldown of your Incarn by 30 seconds. So you can have a 1 minute 30 Incarn. Okay, depending on the rest of the tuning and tier sets and whatnot, we'll see how good that might be. We then have Soul of the Forest moved over here on the right-hand side of the tree as well. It used to be like down here, but now it's moved up here. Saberjaws has been reduced slightly in its potency, but it's still there. Still have Frantic Momentum, still have CI there. Still have Apex. Oh no, Apex has moved over here. I'm getting used to the new deal now. So Apex has now moved over to the left-hand side of the tree. Here's Lunar Inspiration, which is a choice node with Chomp, which I would imagine DOTC is going to play with Chomp, if it even takes it at all, and Wildstalker will play with Lunar Inspiration, but Chomp is actually pretty meaty. So it's important to note that there has been a stat squish in this expansion, so everything now, like, the numbers are way down, way reduced, but this was actually critting for, like, over 8k damage when I was testing it. It was, and this was before I got some gear, actually. I think, well, yeah, it would do about 11k damage or so right now. So that was pretty meaty, actually. 20-second TD. Interesting thing, you can only use it when you have less than 30 energy. So this is kind of cool as like a, I'm pooling, and while I'm pooling, I get a little reward. Like, I still have something that I can do, and it's quite a chunky ability. So, interesting. We'll see how that plays out. You then have Feral Frenzy, which is has an additional node which empowers it. So you either get the Feral Frenzy cooldown reduced by 15 seconds, which will take down to 30 seconds and line it up with your Tiger Fury every single go, or you have Frantic Frenzy, which makes it AoE. And it looks kind of cool, actually, if I show you. Look at this. Ready? Oh, I didn't have sounds on for it. But you can see the cats all jump around, and then you can see this bleed, which currently, I've provided feedback, but currently isn't being tracked on the nameplates. Like if I Rake and Thrash, these are being tracked on the nameplates, but Frantic Frenzy isn't. So that's something that needs to be updated. But that's pretty cool. Just makes Feral Frenzy AoE. Now, I am thinking with this reduction, is that also going to be... okay, damage dealt by Chomp is increased by 20%. So they have removed... I was going to say you would be able to get Feral Frenzy down to 15 seconds. But that is not the case. They have replaced it here and given you Chomp damage. So, interesting. Maybe there have been some changes here on this tree. Maybe I do need to look through that closer. There's also then... Hunger... So, Lacerating Claws, damage over your bleeds increased by 10%. Then you have Hunger for Battle. When an enemy afflicted by your rip dies, gain 10 energy, and your damage dealt is increased by 5% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So now when you're bleeding mobs that are then going to die quite quickly, I'm looking at you, Dimensius. I'm looking at you, Forge Master Araz. I'm looking at you, Soulbinder. I'm looking at a lot of things right now, okay? So those kinds of situations, that's where I could see this probably being pretty decent, as well as just in Mythic Plus, where, or like, you know, council fights, AoE fights, where things are dying, and you're like, well, they still had 10 seconds left on that dot. That's annoying. Well, now it's actually going to give you some energy, and increase your damage to everything else. So you're actually kind of okay with it, maybe. So that's kind of cool. That's I'm very intrigued by this talent and how it ends up playing out. Because you got to remember as well, we also have like Rampant Frosty, and then we got this Blood Spattered and stuff. So this is interesting AoE stuff going on here. And then AoE Feral Frenzy, pretty dope. Circle of Life and Death has been shifted over slightly. And then we have Rip and Tear still and Vein Ripper over here on the right-hand side. So I will just say, like, I've had like 2 hours to play on this. So I really haven't been able to craft different builds and different synergies and do like a pure single target and an AoE and a cleave and a funnel and a this and a that. I haven't been able to do all of that yet. That's something I'm going to be trying to do today, so come check out the stream. And just across the course of the alpha, it's important to note as well that we don't have like Mythic Plus yet or raids, so it's sort of hard to test how fun things are going to be to play in normal dungeon, like normal leveling dungeons. So that will come. But yes, there's some stuff that we can do on target dummies and whatnot and see how that goes. So that's what's changed. Now let's talk about why. So I have here like a note that the developers have given us. So Feral Druid is changing in Midnight to address some important mechanics that are based on information that is hidden to the player. This is very true. Snapshotting has always kind of been elusive, like it's never really been explained in game. And if you're a new player to Feral, there's no reason why you would even know it exists. There's nothing in game to telegraph that to you. And that's bad. That is a failing of Blizzard, and I'm glad that they are addressing this and saying, hey, we need to do better with this. They specifically mention bleed snapshotting, where the damage a bleed deals is increased for its entire duration, is now applied only by Tiger's Fury and Prowl. So Stealth Rake, Stealth Shred. Quick side note, but I do actually need to give some feedback here because, so when I now press Tiger Fury, or if I go in Stealth, you can see the icon of Rake will change to like this empowered, jazzy, new Rake icon to say this is going to be a snapshot Rake. So now you as the user don't have to think, is this still snapshot? Like, you know on application, not only do you know when you're applying it, but when I then rake the mob, you can see that they've got an empowered icon. So rake is actually the empowered icon, whereas if I rake this mob here... Wait, that's also empowered. Why are all of them empowered? Apparently they're all empowered. I don't know why they're all empowered. They shouldn't all be empowered. Okay, maybe that's a bug. It's saying all of my rakes are empowered. But if I look at, say, so if I Tiger Fury and then I Primal Wrath, you can see that Primal Wrath, the Primal Wrath Rip is like the empowered icon, same with Thrash. So you'll be able to track on nameplates empowered bleeds. Now I should note this feedback, and I'm actually going to do that live in this video, but Primal Wrath doesn't show the empowered dot, so that might confuse some people. And also, if you stealth, so I'll try and re-stealth, Shred doesn't have the empowered icon, and Shred still gains an, I mean, it's, I guess it's not a snapshot, maybe that's why they're just looking at snapshots, but you don't actually see empowered Shred. So yes, maybe that's not a bug, maybe that's intentional. But anyway, back to this. So it's only applied by Tiger Fury and Prowl. The icons of empowered bleeds change to show they're strengthened. Blood Talons has been removed. These changes also aim to reduce the complexity that could go into choosing the best builder to use in the moment, putting more of Feral's focus on the maintaining of bleeds and building and spending combo points. So they want to shift your focus. Instead of having to try and like juggle plates and use add-ons and things to track what is and isn't snapshotted, now you can just focus on maintaining bleeds. So they're kind of redirecting, re-rallying around, just focus on the bleeds. That's the main thing. Bada bing, bada boom. While some abilities like Brutal Slash and Adaptive Swarm have been removed, Feral has gained some new tricks that lean into their flavor as deadly hunting cats. Frantic Frenzy is a multi-target upgrade to Feral Frenzy, and Blood Spattered makes him even stronger at taking down a primary target while fighting many enemies. So like, I do like that AoE Feral Frenzy. It now is going to make it like a way stronger option just in Mythic Plus, which is pretty sick. And so I do like that. That is kind of neat, and it could be used on raid bosses and stuff. So that is pretty neat. Cool. So that's kind of why they're doing some of that. Now I did actually get to speak to I believe it was Paul Cubitt. I believe it was, and I asked him, I said, look, you're removing snapshotting from Feral, more or less. You have this extensive talent tree system with choice nodes. Isn't it better to put the choice of complexity in the player's hands? Like, as a player, you can choose whether or not you want more things to track, more active abilities, or more passives. That is your choice. Isn't it better to allow players to opt in or out of complexity rather than forcing the choice on them of just, we're going to simplify things? So I think it's a very fair question to ask and a very important question to ask. And he said, and this is a direct quote, I can't show you guys the footage, but taking an approach to approachability, or taking a new approach to approachability, identifying portions of specs rotations that make people want to download add-ons to solve the combat problems for them. He then went on to say that they still want to have skill expression. So basically, this is their war on add-ons, war on weak auras, war on needing other things to help you just track your spec. And I don't want to make... I'm going to leave you guys to make your opinion on this. I'm sure my opinion on this will change in the coming days and weeks. And as we move into Midnight further, I have been playing around with Feral, and there have been some nice pros of this. Like, when I'm going into combat now, I can just start playing. I don't need to set up as much. I don't need to be, like, generating blood talons and like, sort of, you know, doing a thrash where there's 2 mobs and I'm waiting for everything to stack, but I need my blood talons and, like, just doing all that and, like, thinking about all that. And I've just found, okay, there may be some nice things. Whether or not, you know, I'll feel that way in the long run, we'll see. But, yeah, definitely a bit of a shock to see that. I was not expecting this change for Feral. So, in a way, we've had a bit of a rework. I know many people will be happy with this. Some people will be upset. I'm going to defer on giving my opinion on it just yet. I want to let it sink in. I don't want to jump to conclusions before I've had a chance to play with it. They've obviously had weeks and months to play around with these builds internally, and they must think it's pretty good. So, alright, let's see. Now, my final point that I want to make in this video is Feral in a vacuum, right? Which it is not. Feral exists as part of the wider game. There are many more specs, and if you actually go through and look at some of the other specs right now, and how they have smashed through them, and simplified things, and removed rotational buttons and whatnot, Feral is actually very lucky. Like, yes, we've lost snapshotting in some ways, but we still have it with Tiger Fury, and with Stealth, so we still have it. It's just not in its former glory. But, like, we have a lot of buttons still. We're keeping a lot of the core of our spec and stuff. I went and played some Survival Hunter. It is now like a 2-button spec. They have put a bunch of stuff on cooldown. They've removed a bunch of stuff. They've combined things. I was talking to Preheat, and he was saying Frostmage is weird. It's 3 buttons, and then some 30-second CDs. So, it looks like a lot of things are being changed. A lot of things are being changed. Everything's being changed. A lot of things are being reduced. So take that, like, as a sign that Blizzard is clearly trying to simplify things across the board from a rotational standpoint, from a gameplay standpoint. Now, what this could do is provide them a lot of power to make really sick fight design, really good mechanical stuff, because people can spend less brain power on rotations and more brain power on mechanics. So we'll see what they do with that. I have an interview planned in a day or so where I'll actually be able to interview the encounter designer and the prey system designer and talk to them about this sort of stuff. So that's my plan. If you guys have any questions for them, let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. I'm only going to talk about encounter design. Don't ask me to ask them about Feral stuff. I'm not going to do that. Not appropriate. But yeah, very interesting. We'll see how things go. Maybe the simplicity is kind of good. We'll find out. Let me know your opinions in the chat. Oh, I guess one final thing. This is pretty cool. Mark of the Wild is 100% more effective on yourself, so you get 6% verse now as Feral. That's kind of... Or Druid. That's kind of cool. It's pretty sick. Take that. Yeah, that's my final shout out in the video. Like I say, come check me out on Twitch. I'm live right now as of the posting of this video, so please come hang out and let's go through some feral stuff and all the other class changes and whatnot. And I'm gonna love you and leave you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.